Well, Oscars 2024 are rapidly approaching, so I decided what better time than now to bring back Oscars power rankings, where I power rank the different categories, which not an exciting name for this podcast, but let's get into this. So today we're starting with Best Supporting Actor. Why do I start with Best Supporting Actor? Because it is the category that traditionally kicks off the Academy Awards, and thus I am using this. And this one is a big one because there is a lot of star power in this one. So I have it broken down into categories, and apologies because I will be looking at my notes down here. I have 18 names that I'm going to mention today. I have three in the category of fan fervor can only get you so far. This is a category that, as it sounds, is ones where it definitely has a great amount of support behind it from fans and critics, but that can only get you so far in this race. The next one I have is Too Cool for School. These are the Hollywood legends. Their status is cemented, thus, it doesn't feel like they're really being campaigned in any meaningful way. However, they are beloved actors, so you have to at least keep them in consideration. The other few categories I have vying for recognition. This is exactly that. This is that tier below. Maybe some of their movies are a little bit smaller. Maybe they have competition. Maybe other people in their films are going to be nominated, and thus they're jockeying for position here. I have a few in that category. I believe it's four or five. The next category I have is rounding out the five, and this is essentially I have, as I will call it, the locks. These are the top few positions that I just believe there's no way that when the Academy Awards are announced, they're not going to be on this list. These are the guaranteed they're going to be there. So then this category rounding out the top five, which I actually have five people in this that I want to mention. These are people who are going to fill in those last few spots for nominations. I think these are really the contenders that aren't the sure thing, but feel like they're in that next echelon. So let's start off. Coming in at number 18 on this list is a movie that I quite enjoyed from an actor that I always enjoy their work, but in reality, it's not going to be enough to get them a nomination this year. And I think this film will go completely overlooked by the Academy Awards. That is Ben Affleck in the film Air. And I wanted to break down by pros and cons for each nomination. So the pro in favor of Ben Affleck is the film goes over nominated. I'm suspecting right now that it gets zero nominations. However, if it starts picking up two or three and it has a little bit more steam than I thought, maybe Viola Davis does get a Best Supporting Actress nomination, then all of a sudden, maybe there's the case that Ben Affleck, as the director and I believe co-writer on this film, but also Best Supporting Actor, now all of a sudden there is a case. It's a very fun performance. It's one that Ben Affleck plays very well. He very much understands the persona of Ben Affleck, and thus he's playing into the joke of it. It's a very self-aware performance from the director and actor. The argument against it would be performances like this have not been nominated recently. I think you can look back at 2021 with Licorice Pizza, where Bradley Cooper is similarly positioned in a similar type role where he is there for really comedic heavy moments. He's a lot of the fun. He's the parts that people really remember of this film. Coming in at number 17, and I have this actor on the rise and maybe even vying for a higher spot on this list. It is Jacob Elordi for his performance in Saltburn. And here's the argument in favor of him. He is an actor right now who really just had an incredible 2023, not only being in Saltburn, but also being in the film Priscilla. And that is it. It's the fact that he has Priscilla in his back pocket to possibly earn him another nomination. This could be kind of the breakout performance year for Jacob Elordi, the star of Euphoria. He's already had this pretty successful TV career there. This is him making the leap to stardom in the movies, and the Academy may choose to award a film like this. The con against nominating Jacob Elordi is that Saltburn has been a bit divisive amongst critics and audiences. This isn't a slam dunk film. It is nowhere near the same prestige that Farrell received for their last film, Promising Young Woman. So that does make this likelihood of him receiving recognition seem even less likely. Coming in at number 16, and I know this is a personal fan favorite for a lot of people, and it's a performance that I love. This is definitely going to make one of my best supporting nominations. At the very least, he is definitely cemented in that top 5 to 7 performances for me. And this is an actor that is a TV actor primarily. He is a beloved TV actor, and he comes to play in this movie bringing that same energy that he brings to his character, Dennis, in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I am, of course, talking about the actor Glenn Howerton in the film Blackberry. And the case for him, and it's a big one, is he just got nominated for an Independent Film Spirits Award and have crossover with Academy voters. Thus, there are going to be people who voted him for this award that will be voting in the Academy Awards, unlike some of the critics groups that do not have that. So Glenn Howerton getting that nomination definitely bolsters his case and maybe means that he should rise away from fan fervor can only get you so far. But at this moment, it's such a long shot due largely to the fact this film was released by IFC Studios. And they are a very small indie company that doesn't have the resources available to market a campaign for him, essentially. So it's going to have to be kind of the grassroots movement. Not to say that that hasn't happened. Last year we had Andrea Riseborough get that nomination for To Leslie, which was an even smaller film than Blackberry and went even far more underseen. Glenn Howerton is going to have to prove that he can make that jump and also make the hard jump from TV actor to movie actor. Number 15 and number 14 we can actually kind of do together, and that is Matt Damon in the film Oppenheimer. He's coming in at number 15, and number 14 is Willem Dafoe in Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. And I think their arguments pro and against are very similar. I start with Matt Damon because I did rank him slightly below Willem Dafoe. One, this is a good year for Matt Damon having Air in his back pocket. That does mean he was relevant this season. He was making films people love. So you could see kind of that career nomination again, where people are like, oh, we loved you in Oppenheimer and we loved you in Air. You had a great year. And that is a case in his favor. The issue is he is in a crowded field and he is going to be going up against some of his Oppenheimer co stars who they are clearly positioning to get a nomination, if not the win. Thus, it would be very easy for the studio Universal to just not campaign Matt Damon. Poor Things with Willem Dafoe has a slightly different chance of getting a nomination. This is at this moment one of the most critically acclaimed films of this year. Poor Things is that. And if you look back at 2018, when Yorgos gets nominated for The Favorite, that year he earned 3 nominations for its lead actors and eventually got the win for its lead actress. Thus, you could see that case of that history repeating itself. Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe could get nominated. Now, the reason I have it this low is one, the biggest aspect of it that I'm not sure of is I don't know how much Willem Dafoe is in this movie. At this moment, I have not seen Poor Things, so I cannot be the judge of that. But I've really gotten the sense that Mark Ruffalo is the lead of this film, and he is clearly being positioned as the front runner for Best Supporting Actor. However, if this film gets over nominated and they just start nominating every aspect of this movie from visual effects, below the lines, costume design, cinematography, all of that, and this ends up becoming one of the most nominated films of this year, Willem Dafoe could just get in with that just groundswell of support. Before we move on with this video, I just want to take a moment and thank you all for watching this video and for watching my channel this past year. I've basically doubled in size since the beginning of 2023, and my goal is to hit 500 subscribers before the end of this year. So if you're watching this video, please do me a favor, like and subscribe to this channel. It just means the world to me. And again, thank you all for all your support. You actually don't know how much it means to me to be able to do this in a semi-professional way and to get the guests that I've been getting. I just enjoy it the most. And so I thank you all, and I thank you all for my continued success. Now, heading back to the video, So this next category, vying for recognition, I have five actors in this list. And we're going to start with number 13, the actor that I think is just, I really want to support, but it just doesn't feel like there's any real chance of them getting it. And that's John Margaro for Past Lives. Apologies if I messed up the name. I believe Past Lives to be a little bit on the downcline. And I think it's largely due to release strategy. It was the issue of this was an early June film. Thus, it's kind of gone forgotten when all the other big award contenders this year have come out, such as, Poor Things, when you have American Fiction, when you have all these movies coming out back to back to back. This screener kind of just goes forgotten for people. So that is an element against this performance from Magaro. And I also think it's the issue of Past Lives. A24 does want to get this film nominated. However, they're going to be campaigning for such categories as actress, screenplay, director, best picture. I think that's where A24 is going to put their resources. Now, the favor of that is that A24 is running the campaign for Past Lives, and A24 has proven to be one of the best track records of campaigning for an actor for nominations. Look what they did last year in sweeping every major nomination for the actors and for winning director, picture, and a lot of below the lines. They know how to campaign their movie. They did it with Moonlight in 2016. Everything Everywhere All at Once proved that it's not a fluke. Thus, Past Lives, if campaigned correctly, could be a film that gets nominations because it does feel like it's one of A24's biggest outings this year. Number 12, and this one actually pains me to say that it's this low because I thought this performance was brilliant and I think it actually serves the film so well. I don't think this film works without this actor coming in the moment that he does in this film. He is a beloved actor. People love working with him. Directors seem to just pick him out. He's worked with Jane Campion recently, which got him his first nomination. This is Jesse Plemons in the film Killers of the Flower Moon. A truly wonderful performance from Plemons. And the argument would be everything that I just listed. Beloved actor working with a beloved auteur who seems to love working with Plemons. Plemons previously worked with Scorsese in The Irishman. So there is all that going in Plemons' favor. The issue that I have with getting Plemons above the 12th spot is just that if you look at it, there's so much going against it. And it is that Killers of the Flower Moon is most likely going to have a Best Supporting Actor nomination in Robert De Niro. And De Niro's definitely the one that they are positioning. De Niro has the bigger role in the movie. And personally, I found De Niro the most compelling of the male leads in this film. So that's going against him. And it's also that Killers of the Flower Moon is struggling to have a staying power position. I think some of the writing about this film and critical discussion of this film has hurt this film. It has been kind of lost in these, what is this film about? Can Scorsese make this? Is it whitewashing the story? Whether you agree or disagree with it, Killers of the Flower Moon has been affected by that. And thus, it does feel like some of the momentum it had going into its release has definitely faded over time. And there's been a lot of complaints that I've heard. Complaints that I disagree with, complaints, though, that I've heard that this film is slow and that this film doesn't really move or get anywhere. And Flemings could definitely be one that takes the downfall, as well as maybe some other actors that we'll mention later. Now, again, one thing that I should note that could help propel this movie is as of this date, which is 12/7, Killers of the Flower Moon is now available on VOD and is assumingly going to be going on Apple TV soon enough, which means more eyeballs will be able to see this film. So maybe this film goes up on the upswing. I'm not sure if it does, but that's why Jesse Plemons is at the spot that he is, number 12 on this list. Number 11, and I have to kind of breeze through this one because I haven't seen this movie, nor have I known anything about it until about a week ago. But this is Paul Mescal in All of Us Stranger. Paul Mescal, who got his first nomination last year for the film After Sun, which was kind of a last second surprise nomination. And that's the pro. This is a young actor that people are clearly seeing coming into his own. He is proving himself. He's working with such directors as Ridley Scott in Gladiator 2. He is making the name for himself. The con against it is, and it's kind of that issue that I just mentioned where I haven't been able to see it, It's the availability. I have not really been able to get a hold of All of Us Strangers. I don't know when it will premiere. And if it premieres too late, it might just be in this situation where no one gets to see it by the time this film gets nominated, or no one gets to see All of Us Strangers before nominations are announced for the Academy Awards. Thus, they have to make sure this movie gets in front of audiences soon, and especially Academy audiences real soon for it to even have a chance at cracking the Best Supporting Actor race. Coming in at number 10, similarly to what the issue with the Mescal campaign, we have another campaign that is going to struggle, and that is Peter Sarsgaard in the film Memory, which made its premiere at one of the film festivals this fall. And the pro is that he's been getting extremely great reviews for his performance. Again, it is a performance I haven't seen, and that is going to be kind of the issue that I have with putting this film any higher. And that is that this film is not readily available, and it's released by the studio called Ketchup Entertainment. You might know Ketchup Entertainment for releasing the film Hypnotic starring Ben Affleck earlier this year. They're a new studio, they're a young studio, they don't have the resources behind them. Thus, campaigning is going to be hard. Thus, this film really needs strong word of mouth. And again, at this moment, I just haven't heard anything about this film premiering anywhere, about being able to readily see this movie. And that is going to hurt. I think the comparison to Brian Tyree Henry from last year for his performance in Causeway, which is also a little underseen movie that still got the nomination, I think that's an apt comparison. However, I do want to poke some holes in that. And that is that even if Causeway was a little bit underseen, it was still readily available on Apple TV. Memory has to become readily available for it to be taken any more serious in this race. Coming in at number 9, and this is a performance that I actually did get to see recently, and it's from one of our best actors, and he gives a really powerfully emotive performance in this. And many would probably call him more of the fun, the heart of this movie, and maybe the reason audiences have been so swayed with this movie. And it makes its premiere, it's released by MGM, it's making its premiere tomorrow, December 8th, and that is Sterling K. Brown in the film American Fiction. And the pro for American Fiction is that it is peaking right at the right time. It is coming out December 8th, right in the just span of Oscar movies. It is the audience winner out of TIFF, thus the momentum in its favor is strong. There's been a lot of goodwill and good writing about it. And it has that prime release date. That is a prime release date that gives audiences time to see this movie and discuss this movie. However, with audiences being more readily available to see that comes the con of that. All of a sudden, you become this beloved film out of TIFF, and now you're faced with a wider audience. I can say that the audience I saw this film with did not engage with American Fiction as well as I thought they would. This is going to be a divisive film, and this is going to be a film that people talk about negatively. I can already see some of the backlash creeping up online critically, and thus this film has to kind of get through that wave of backlash and survive that to really succeed in getting a nomination. But Sterling K. Brown is in that category right now of vying for recognition, and I almost want to bump him higher to this next one, which is rounding out the top 5. In this category, we have 5 actors vying for this final few spots. So just for context, I want to say in the positions, the top 3, I have 3 names locked. Thus, there are 2 spots open, which means this vying for recognition and rounding out the top 5, this has to fill those final 2 spots. So I think one of these actors from this next category, where I have 5 names rounding out the top 5, are going to get the nominations. And I will go from bottom to top, which is number 8, an actor that I actually think might be too low on this list. And maybe in a week we'll revisit this and bump him up. It is Coleman Domingo for The Color Purple. The Color Purple is now making its wide release, or I should say, the Color Purple is now making a limited release. I now know people who have seen this film that are raving about this film, and it is going to be coming out Christmas. This is a good year for Coleman Domingo with other films like Rustin by Netflix. And Rustin, while didn't hit the mark, he's very good. Thus, it could be again that kind of groundswell of support of look how great Coleman Domingo is as an actor. Thus, we must nominate him for a performance that lives up to it. So that is all working in favor of the perception of Coleman Domingo getting it. Like I said, he might be a little too low. The only reason that I have him a little lower is because I haven't heard a great amount of critical consensus for The Color Purple. I now know a few people have seen it who have been raving about it, but it hasn't been mass audiences. So audiences have to respond to this. And musicals are a hard film to sell. Some of them do really well, like West Side Story. Others of them, if they bomb financially, this might be the end of a film's chances like that. However, I do think Coleman Domingo is in a good chance to get a nomination, and him coming in at number 8 may be way too low. Coming in at number 7, and this one's kind of a cheat because I'm doing two names here, and it's simply because I don't know what to make of this performance or how they're going to differentiate the categories. But I am generally calling this number 7 the Iron Claw spot, which means either Jeremy Allen White and or Holt McCallany. And the reason that I have the Iron Claw right here is because one, the critical consumption of this movie has been really well. I think this film is going to have a strong audience turnout. A24 being A24, knowing what they're doing. I believe this film is going to be a big deal when it comes out in about a week. I get to see this the 13th. I'm very excited to see this movie. And I am leaning towards giving this number 7 spot Jeremy Allen White simply because he's the actor out of The Bear. With the Emmys now moving to 2024, this beginning period of 2024, Jeremy Allen White is going to be campaigning for The Bear because he's the front runner for Best Comedy Series and Best Comedy Actor. This, you're going to be seeing a lot of him. Thus, he is going to be on people's minds this award season, both for the Academies and the Emmys. The argument against it is, as I just laid out, I don't really know who they would nominate for the Best Supporting Actor. This is a movie about all these brothers. Who really defines themselves as the best supporting actor here? I'm putting it on Jeremy Allen White just because he's one of the more famous ones in this cast, but it is an ensemble cast. And sometimes ensemble casts have the issue where they're all so good that you don't really know how to differentiate them. And it's also going to be the question of, does Jeremy Allen White having such Emmy prestige, is that going to cross over with voters for the Academy? Because those are, while they do have a lot of crossover, they are two different voting bodies. And we do know that TV isn't always looked at as favorably as movies. There is this old school thought where movies are movies, TV are TV, and thus movie stars are movie stars, and TV stars are TV stars. They don't get to make that jump so easily. And Jeremy Allen White is young. Thus, can he make that jump is going to be the question. And that's why he's coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is a performance that I do believe to be kind of on the downswing, despite being one of my favorite performances this year. He matches the energy of one of our best actors working today, and that's Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers, an actor that no one had heard of until this movie came out. He was a guy that's never worked, and he's quite brilliant in The Holdovers. He holds his own with Giamatti, and this film is receiving a lot of praise. It's receiving nominations for sure, and thus can Sessa make that case in his favor that he's one of the 3 big characters in this film, and the other 2 are almost guaranteed to receive nominations. Thus, can he climb the ranks and get that nomination? And can he just kind of get along with that groundswell that I keep talking about, where The Holdovers goes a lot of nominations? Dominic Sessa is all of a sudden a part of that ensemble. He's deemed important. He can get that nomination. The argument is it's his first movie role, and thus the Academy might be a little bit less willing to give him this nomination. They will have this thought that maybe we can nominate him again in the future, or it's not his time yet. That youngness is going against him, especially as he goes against actors that are A-list of the A-list. And that's who he's competing with. If you want to get in this top 5, you have to be A-list, and you have to be able to compete with the A-list. Is Dominic Sessa there? Is he ready to compete? We'll see this award season. Coming in at number 5, and I should make this clear, since he's coming in at number 5, these are my top 5. So these are the people that I am predicting to get the 5 spots. It is Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon. This has everything Academy voters love. It's Robert De Niro, a beloved actor, Martin Scorsese, a beloved director, working in a genre that they are both well known for. It is kind of a celebration of their careers, the characters that they've played. Robert De Niro plays a villain in Killers of the Flower Moon where he gets to be big, he gets to chew the scenery. It's a very loud, boisterous performance. It's just all the making of Academy catnip for a performance like this. And it's again this case of Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be hitting VOD and assumingly streaming in the next few weeks, which means he will be able to be more readily seen. Now, the one point that I do want to make different than what Plemons had with Killers of the Flower Moon versus De Niro has for cons against this is that De Niro just had that kind of infamous speech at the Gotham Awards where he badmouthed Trump. He kind of went after Apple TV for censoring his speech. Does this sit badly with Academy voters? I personally don't believe so, and I think it makes Robert De Niro even cooler. However, maybe there's a hesitancy to get him in front of the mic, and your more older voters and conservative minds within the Academy isn't going to respond and want to nominate Robert De Niro for giving a speech like that. I don't think it hurt his chances. However, I am monitoring that situation. Coming in at number 4, and this is the last one of rounding out the top 5. Honestly, a lot of people would have them this. Honestly, a lot of people would have this performance in their locks, and I understand why. I'm just not fully there yet for a few reasons, and that is Charles Melton for the film May December. And let me just sing the songs and let me just sing the praises that Melton has been gaining a lot of recently. Melton is truly exceptional in a film that I had mixed feelings about. He is the heart and humanity of the story that makes it work. He is the most critically acclaimed aspect of a critically beloved movie. He is the winner of the Gotham Awards, which is voted on by committee, which is important to know. This committee is critic, journalist, festival programming, and curators for the nomination. So that would make you believe, well, the Gotham Awards don't have any merit because that body doesn't vote for the Academy Awards, which is completely correct. The one aspect that I think is very important to note with the Melton performance in the Gothams is that the people who vote on the winners are industry people, whether that's producers, whether that's writers, whether that's directors, whether that's actors. They're voting on who wins the Gotham Award. So the fact that Charles Melton could get this nomination and win is in favor of him, even if the way he got that nomination doesn't really count in his favor because that's not Academy voters. However, it is an acclaimed performance. The con against him is critics do not vote for the Oscars. So despite it being one of the most critically proclaimed perform so despite it being one of the most critically acclaimed performances of this year, that is what it is in this moment. And and with the subject matter of May December, it's going to be interesting to see if Academy voters go in favor of this or if the audience response from this movie is a little bit softer than the critical response. And you also have the fact that Charles Melton is a TV actor from his role in Riverdale. Are the Academy going to be able to get over that bias? I believe they should. However, that is a point that the Academy is known for not always getting over. So now we are in our locks, and there have been 3 noticeable names that I haven't mentioned yet, and thus everyone knows who these 3 are. It's kind of the order is the question. So let's just start off with number 3, who I think is pretty much a lock to guarantee it. Maybe you can make the case that he might be more of rounding out the top 5 and he's not a guaranteed. However, I just think this campaign is working really well in his favor. I think this film about to come out and the amount of nominations it's surely going to get, the critical acclaim it's getting, the audience acclaim that's getting, it's going to be one of the most talked about films of this year, and that is Mark Ruffalo in the film Poor Things, which it's just an incredibly beloved movie at this point. It's critically acclaimed, and his performance is just getting a lot of acclaim. You're hearing him going up against Emma Stone in this movie. Plus, it's this fun narrative surrounding Mark Ruffalo, him returning to his indie awards along with some of his Marvel co stars. We'll talk about one of them in a second. And that's all just working in his favor. It's seemingly a great campaign. And I just believe the fan fervor for this performance, how much people are really just loving this movie. I think it's going to get him there. The only thing that is holding back this from being the most guaranteed of guaranteed locks is Poor Things is a movie that has to win over voters in the Academy. And from everything that I've learned about this movie, Poor Things is weird. and it's out there, and is the Academy going to go for it? I don't think this is going to be an issue, and I would say this is even a non-factor. However, I am just noting that Poor Things is a weird movie, and the Academy has to get on board with it if they're going to nominate Mark Ruffalo. Coming in at number two, and this is where we're going to get to the Barbenheimer guys in this category. We have two for Best Supporting Actor. And I'll just start with number two, who's someone who just, I didn't actually think when I saw this film that he was going to maintain the momentum to get this nomination. However, he's here, and I just don't see any world in which he doesn't get this nomination. It's going to be a really fun nomination when Ryan Gosling gets nominated for his performance as Ken in Barbie. Barbie is one of the biggest sensations of this year. I didn't believe it at the time of seeing this film. I didn't actually think it was going to be able to make its way to the Academy Awards. It is. And Ryan Gosling is a big reason of it. He is the breakout character of Barbie, which is kind of crazy to say in a Barbie film, in a film that made $1.4 billion. Now, the question that could come up against Ryan Gosling, and it's purely speculative, and I don't actually believe it to come up, but what if Ryan Gosling gets the nomination and Margot Robbie doesn't? What does that say about optics? Is that a little weird to position that the one actor who gets a nomination in Barbie is the male lead? In fairness, I don't see that becoming a reality because I think Margot Robbie is almost guaranteed a spot in it. However, it is just one thing to circle. I actually think the one thing that is more troubling for Barbie getting this nomination is just simply this is, despite how good of a movie it is a toy commercial, and it's a very commercial type film in that way. So the Academy has to again get on board with it, which they didn't nominate the Lego movie, which again has the animated bias against it. So I don't know if that's a fair comparison to make, but that is another factor of films like Barbie don't always typically get nominated, and especially big commercial films that are this comedic in tone. However, Greta Gerwig is a beloved director and writer, and it does seem safe that he is going to get it. That's why he's my number two, and he is a lock. I don't actually see a future in which he doesn't get it. I'm merely making the counter argument of it. And number one, the biggest lock of all locks, and honestly, the guy to beat at this moment is the return of Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. He has everything. He has the narrative, he has the performance, he has the film. This just feels like a perfect film for him to get nominated and win for. He's never won an Academy Award at this moment. And again, he has this narrative of no longer being in the MCU, and he has this kind of beloved actor quality to it where people were so blown away getting to see Robert Downey Jr. act in a movie like Oppenheimer. And that is all working in his favor. And I think the other note that people should make of Oppenheimer was that Robert Downey Jr. actually got to campaign for this film before the SAG strikes began. He was able to pre-record a lot of those interviews, a lot of those junkets. He was able to get himself out there for Oppenheimer before the strikes began. Thus, when we had this however many month labor stoppage, he was kind of the last guy that got to campaign before it all began up again in November. So he just had those months where he was kind of the dominating discussion for Academy Awards because he was the one who was able to get out there and talk about them largely due to his positioning. And that is all working in his favor. The fact that he got to promote where a lot of other actors are now having to play catch up and promote. The con against it is he has tough competition this year. This is going to be an A-list cast of actors. And is he going to receive any of the blame for the MCU craze? Is he kind of going to be seen as the original sin of the MCU and making Marvel the success that it is, and also kind of just changing the film landscape in a way that a lot of critics and filmmakers haven't appreciated? In reality, I don't believe that to be true, and I don't believe it to be a factor. I think Robert Downey Jr. wins this award hands down. However, it is one thing to note. With that all said, that is this video. So thank you for watching. And do you agree with my power rankings? Would you switch any of them? And if you actually want to read more about it, check out the link down in my description below, and you'll see it right here. that is my website where I just have it all posted readily available for you guys. So thank you all for watching. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for my channel. I'll be back next week with more power rankings. So thank you all so much for watching. Take care and bye bye.